Order.
The Draft Financial Services and Markets Act 2000 Cryptoassets Regulations 2025.
I call the Minister to move the bill.
Thank you very much, Chair. I beg to move that the House considers the Draft Financial Services and Markets Act 2000 Cryptoassets Order 2025. This statutory instrument delivers a comprehensive regime for the regulation of crypto assets within the FISMA framework, meaning crypto assets will be regulated under the same architecture as other financial services. Coupled with the rules being prepared by the FCA, the regime will protect consumers and give technology and financial services firms the certainty they need to invest in the UK and indeed to grow. So there is a general trend towards more people investing in crypto assets in the UK, and as they become more intertwined with traditional financial services too, it's critical that we offer appropriate protection and get our approach to regulation right. Previous intervention in this space has focused on addressing the most urgent risks first, namely money laundering and misleading financial promotions. However, as it stands, most crypto asset activities are not subject to broader financial services regulation, covering matters such as conduct and prudential requirements. Consumers and industry have long called for clear and comprehensive oversight of crypto assets in the UK, and the Treasury first consulted on these proposals in 2023 under the previous government. In October 24, this government committed to implementing a regime largely in line with the consultation proposals, and the instrument before us today delivers on that commitment. The instrument amends the Regulated Activities Order to do two principal things. First, to define the categories of crypto asset that will be within scope of the regime, and secondly, to define the new activities that will be regulated. Generally, firms undertaking these activities in the UK or for UK consumers must be authorised by the FCA or risk committing a criminal offence. And Chair, specifically, the new activities are issuing qualifying stablecoin in the UK, safeguarding qualifying crypto assets and relevant specified investment crypto assets, operating a qualifying crypto asset trading platform, dealing in qualifying crypto assets as principal or as agent, or arranging deals in qualifying crypto assets, and lastly, qualifying crypto asset staking. The instrument also uses the new designated activities regime to create frameworks governing public offers of qualifying crypto assets and their admission to trading on relevant platforms, and to tackle market abuse in relation to such crypto assets. The SI also makes, as people will have spotted, consequential amendments to various pieces of legislation to ensure that the regime can operate effectively and to ensure also consistency between the crypto asset regulatory framework and the rules that apply to traditional financial services. The provisions will take effect from the 25th of October 2027, which will allow the FCA to consult and to finalise rules this year, and it will give firms at least 12 months to apply for authorisation and for the FCA to process applications ahead of the enforcement date. So, Chair, by way of conclusion, as I've set out, this regime will raise standards, it will strengthen consumer protection, it will help to tackle market abuse, and it will support the responsible growth of the UK's crypto assets sector by providing clear and consistent rules. It brings crypto assets within the robust Financial Services and Markets Act framework, while ensuring the sector has the space and the flexibility to innovate. And I hope the committee will join me in supporting these measures.
The question is that the committee has considered the Draft Financial Services and Markets Act 2000 Crypto Assets Regulations 2025. I call the opposition spokesman, Mark Garnier.
Well, thank you very much, Sir Alec. And can I start off my words by welcoming the general thrust of this legislation. It is incredibly important legislation, and the Minister and I have sparred across these tables a number of times in the past, and I think so far we've managed to keep it to under 5 minutes. Now I must apologise to the committee that it might take a little bit longer. This piece of legislation is something that was started, as the Minister already said, under the previous government, and is absolutely vital for the City of London to maintain its presence as a global financial leader. We have here, right here in the City of London, been innovative and thought-leading for a few hundred years now. Jonathan's Coffee Shop was the first to advertise share prices, and from that the London Stock Exchange grew, setting the model for equity ownership the world over. Similarly, Lloyd's Coffee Shop created the insurance market we see today. So as new technology comes forward, it is absolutely vital that the City of London, the UK's financial services sector, not just adopts this new technology, but leads on it. And leads on it with intelligence and the experience we have gained over the few previous centuries of legislating in this area. And as we move forward in the age of new technology, we need to legislate. This SI that we have here today is possibly the best example of how we can embrace that change. Indeed, the short time we have been given to debate this belies the importance of this piece of legislation and the months of consulting that lies behind it. And whilst we're absolutely behind the thrust of this, it is a bit flawed in its drafting. We believe it's flawed in its drafting. This draft SI appears to draw together two separate things. In very simple terms, it appears to confuse crypto assets with stable coins. Crypto assets, bitcoins and the like, are commodities in the same way that a bond or a share or a commodity is. It is an item that is bought and sold with a view to its value changing. But a stable coin is an asset fully backed by a fiat currency and thus a proxy of that underlying fiat currency. A stable coin is part of the payment system and so should be regulated as such. So Mr. Chair, I'm someone who understands the principles of legislation, but sometimes the help of people who really get the law is important. And so I'm grateful to a couple of people who've helped me actually put this argument forward today. In particular, Mike Ringer, who's founder of Restabilize, but actually more importantly, Professor Sarah Green, who's a law commissioner for commercial and common law at the Law Commission of England and Wales from 2020 to 2024. And she was responsible for Electronic Trade Documents Act 23 and Property Digital Assets Act 2025. So, Mr. Chair, as I've discussed, the draft legislation being debated today establishes the regulatory parameter for crypto assets in the UK, including stablecoins. And as such, what we're discussing today is crucial for the delivery of HM Treasury's often repeated policy intention for the UK to become a global hub for digital assets and blockchain technologies, something which we are 100% behind. But that means a properly drafted bill is absolutely mission critical. The ability of the UK to become a global leader in the digital economy and to retain its position as a leading international financial centre depends on the ability of this piece of legislation to set out clearly, decisively and unambiguously how it will distinguish between different types of crypto assets. Without strong, decisive and nuanced categories, the potential for effective regulation and therefore for optimum growth could be lost or will be lost. And this is not an opportunity to be squandered, and yet this current drafting threatens to do just that. So the government's policy note that accompanied the original draft SI published in April last year states that, and I quote, "This is a draft SI and should not be treated as final. It is being published for technical checks such as any significant errors or oversight in the legal drafting. That would mean that the provisions in this SI would not achieve the desired outcomes explained in this note, or that could lead to other significant unintended consequences." So my purpose today, Sir Alec, is to explain why current oversight in the current drafting does mean that the SI's provision do not achieve their stated aim. So let me explain. A critical component of the successful development of digital asset markets is an effective form of digital settlement asset, i.e. digital cash. And there are three forms of digital cash. The first is central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. The second is tokenized commercial bank deposits. And the third is regulated stablecoins. If the UK is to establish itself as a global hub for digital assets, then it is essential that all of these can be used interchangeably with traditional fiat money, that is state-backed money. For this to happen, each form needs to be regulated in a way that recognises its particular nature and function. So in the case of stable coins, this will be achieved by regulating issuers under the new regulatory regime that the legislation we are debating today brings in. That will be introduced and supervised by the Financial Conduct Authority, and in the case of sterling-denominated systemic table coins, by subjecting issuers to dual regulation by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Bank of England. In its consultation paper on its proposed regulatory regime for sterling-denominated systemic stablecoins published in November last year, the Bank of England confirmed that, one, the use of regulated stablecoins could lead to faster, cheaper retail and wholesale payments with greater functionality both at home and across borders, and two, that the Bank of England therefore wants to support such a role for stablecoins as part of a multi-money system alongside commercial bank money, including tokenized bank deposits. So, in effect, to be part of the payment system itself. So similarly, we know that as the world progresses, capital markets, foreign exchange and asset management will increasingly be settled through digitalized blockchain technologies. So for the UK to maintain its leading global position in these markets and others, it is vital we take a leading role in adopting blockchain technologies in the payment system. Used in this way, stablecoins will bring immense benefits in terms of speed, lower cost and programmability. And in other words, they are a key to growth, both in our economy and in our financial services industry. But importantly, without a proper treatment of stablecoins, that is one that recognises the way in which these assets actually function in practice, the UK risks not only missing out on positive growth benefits, but crucially, could lose ground to other jurisdictions. And this is ground that will be difficult to recover because market provision will already be established elsewhere, and done so where providers can be certain of their legislative position. So we will be trying to catch up where other jurisdictions have made progress and secured their lead. On the current wording of this SI, that important lead that provides much economic benefit to the winner is not going to be here in the UK. This SI does not achieve what I hope we all agree we want, and that is that the UK to be leading the way in crypto assets, including stablecoins and the wider payments opportunity that distributed ledger technology provides, DLT provides. And yet the solution is simple, straightforward, and actually easily achieved. So essentially, market participants should be able to use regulated stablecoins and tokenized commercial bank deposits in place of traditional fiat currency for the purposes that I've already mentioned, that of to make payments, to settle capital markets transactions, foreign exchange transactions, and for collateral and corporate treasury management. But crucially, they must do that without suddenly needing to apply for additional licenses from the Financial Conduct Authority. If this is the effect of the SI in question, these new forms of money will not be used because of the unnecessary regulatory hurdle that we could put in the way of market participants. The result will be that the development of digital assets and blockchain technologies in the UK could simply grind to a halt. And this will take with it all of its growth potential, as well as the chance of the UK remaining the preeminent force in the financial world. So unfortunately, the likely need for these additional licenses is precisely the effect of the wording in the proposed legislation we are considering today, despite the fact that it appears to run counter to the government's oft-stated and highly laudable policy intention. So it would appear, therefore, that there has been a simple and we believe easily rectified drafting error. Specifically, there is currently no defined distinction for the majority of the new regulated activities between qualifying stablecoins specifically and qualifying crypto assets generally, which has a number of cascading and adverse effects. The most adverse of these is that under the current wording, stablecoins, including those regulated by the FCA, the Bank of England, are treated in the same way as unbacked crypto assets like Bitcoin. And given that the risk profile of unbacked crypto assets is starkly different to that of fiat-pegged stablecoins, which is crucially simply another form of regulated money, this makes no sense. Lumping unbacked assets together with stablecoins for regulatory purposes is rather like buying a car instead of a horse, but still tying the car to a post in case it runs off. Of course, both need securing, but in ways that recognise the fundamental difference between the two of them. So from a practical perspective, applying the new dealing and arranging activities to be regulated stablecoins has the effect of potentially requiring market participants seeking to use or facilitate the use of regulated stablecoins for the purposes I've mentioned. And for collateral and corporate treasury management, and that's to require new licenses from the FCA purely because they are using regulated stablecoins instead of traditional fiat money. In that world, market participants simply will not use them, and the principal benefit and advantage of stablecoins may never be realised. So the government appears to have attempted to address this in the case of payments, though the copying of the legacy purpose-based sale of goods and services exemption from the traditional regulatory regime, which disapplies the new dealing and arranging activities for the use of stablecoins to buy and sell goods. But this does not, however, achieve its aim of exempting all of those who are crucial to the stablecoin payments process. And significantly, it is not clear that it covers those who exchange fiat money for stablecoins and stablecoins for fiat money. The payments process stands and falls by the ability of users to convert fiat into stablecoins and back again. And yet the exemption as currently drafted is likely to deter market participants from providing these essential services because it's not clear that it applies to them. So it would be far clearer and simpler to have an exemption drafted in a way that is bespoke to stablecoins rather than attempting to shoehorn them into a legacy definition that was not drafted with the stablecoin payment process in mind. Alternatively, to use an existing statutory definition that accommodates a full range of payment activities, such as, for example, referring to the use of stablecoins in providing payment services in the way that the Payment Services Regulation 2017 do. Equally as important is the fact that there is in this current draft no similar purpose-based exemption for the use of stablecoins in capital markets or foreign exchange transactions, nor in asset management or corporate treasury management. And again, these will be straightforward to introduce and should be entirely uncontroversial from a policy perspective. To allow this in the legislation would provide immense benefits to the city. And for these reasons, a failure to make these simple and textually minor clarification changes now will not only make it very, very difficult for the UK to become a global hub for digital assets and blockchain technologies, but would also risk the UK losing its position as a leading international financial centre. This piece of legislation is intended to be ground-moving in terms of seizing opportunity for our financial services industry, and it would be tragic if it would be reduced to a minor tremor for the sake of simple, loose grasping problems. Mr. Chair, these concerns go into a great deal of detail, but we do need to address them to make sure we don't mess up a golden opportunity to get this right. There are one or two other concerns that have been raised with me, but I think we can possibly talk about them at a different time. But what I'd be incredibly grateful to the Minister if as I say, the principle behind this is something that we fundamentally 100% behind. It's a very, very good policy, this, and really important we get this right. But there are issues which legal experts cleverer than I, but probably not cleverer than the Minister actually, who I think started at Slaughter and May. But it is important that we get this right. And obviously we were very keen to work with the government to get it right, and so I was hopeful that the Minister would agree to meet with me and some people who are experts in this area, so that we could have a look at the drafting of this legislation to see if it is possible. We will support it if she's happy to do that, and then we can move forward and get something together and hopefully get this right. But it is important that we get this right. But I'd be very grateful to hear the Minister's thoughts. Thank you.
Minister Rigby.
Thank you very much, Chair, and I'm very grateful to the committee, the whole of the committee, for their consideration of this matter, in particular, of course, to the shadow EST. And look, I share, frankly, his vital commitment to the continuous innovation in financial services. Indeed, I would argue that that is what has made London and our financial services hub as world-leading as we are, is our continuous, and he went quite some way back with coffee shops, but is our continuous embracing of innovation. And I also share his view that the next stage of innovation, which is critical to embrace, concerns stablecoin and digital assets and tokenization much more broadly. But I think it's fair to say that we are coming at this from the same place. And with regard to stablecoin specifically, we would wholeheartedly agree that we think that insofar as the potential of stablecoin to play a really, really significant role in both retail payments and wholesale payments as well. So the Shadow Economic Secretary rightly refers to qualifying stablecoins as a definition being a subset of qualifying crypto assets. And he also recognises, I think, that the aim of this SI is to bring within the FCA's perimeter the issuance of stablecoin, which I distinguish from using stablecoin as a method of payment. Again, I think we're on the same page in relation to that. And stablecoin payment activities are deliberately carved out of this SI because we've carved out any transaction for the purposes of the supply of goods or services. The intention, thank you. The intention, the intention is when it comes to using stablecoin as a method of payment, is to deal with that in the context of the upcoming payments strategy. There's going to be an awful lot of work done over the course of this year because, as the Shadow EST rightly refers to, we are the UK is a leader in payments innovation, and indeed stablecoin is a key piece of that. There are other pieces of the stablecoin picture. As I'm sure he knows, the bank are at the moment consulting on systemic stablecoin, and quite what will constitute systemic is yet to be defined. So that remains an area which industry understandably are looking for answers on. As I said, the bank has their consultation open, and of course the FCA is also consulting on the detailed rules that will underpin this regime. I note, and I very much welcome his support in principle for these measures. So, as I said, I welcome that, and I think, Chair, that it is absolutely critical, clearly, that we make sure that every single I is dotted and every single T is crossed. We all want this to go right, and I certainly don't want to be anything which subsequently becomes an issue. I'm not sure there is at this point. As I said, I note his support in principle, but I would nevertheless be more than happy to talk to him at a mutually convenient time, and him to bring the experts that he refers to, and we can hopefully persuade him that this is completely kosher as it is, or he can tell us why he doesn't think that that is the case. But that is a meeting that I'm more than happy to have. And Chair, I'm grateful again to the committee for their consideration of this SI, and I hope they'll join me in supporting these measures.
The question is that the committee has considered the Draft Financial Services and Markets Act 2000, Cryptoassets Regulations 2025. As many as that opinion say aye. Aye. Of the contrary, no. I think the ayes have it. The ayes have it. Order, order.